The National Desk, America's News, now.
It is Kamala Harris's turn to make her case in a bid for the White House as Democrats descend on Chicago.
This is a party that is energetic, that is excited, but also has to understand, as Governor Pritzker said, it is a very tough race.
We will take you live to the convention floor as anti-war protests ramp up just outside. Then flooding in the Northeast turns deadly as Ernesto regains hurricane strength. Why the storm is threatening the U.S. without even touching land. And Purdue Chicken pulling most of its popular products from store shelves, including some for kids. The foreign substance customers say they found inside that's now sparked a major recall. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Tonight, the Democratic National Convention officially underway in Chicago. Democrats looking to make their case to American voters for 4 more years in the White House. In just a matter of hours, we will hear from President Joe Biden, who not long ago stepped down as the Democratic candidate, paving the way for Kamala Harris's historic run. This as protests against an overseas war take shape just outside. Let's get right to the National Desk's Christine Frizzell live in Chicago with a look at what to expect. Christine?
Yeah, it is a little crazy, Amira, if you take a step back and remember that this convention was actually supposed to be centered completely around President Biden. Instead, we'll be hearing from him tonight, this first night, in his speech, and he will give this historic handoff. Now, the White House insists tonight's speech is not about looking backward, but what the future of this country can and should be.
The stage is set for a convention that just 1 month ago appeared would have a very different feel.
We're seeing now a burst of excitement and energy, but also people who want to work to make sure they win. And I think that is extremely important because the election, of course, is going to be tight.
Instead of running for a second term, President Joe Biden expected to pass the baton to his partner these last 4 years, Vice President Kamala Harris. Tonight's theme, For the People, an echo of Harris's campaign slogan when she ran in the 2020 election, dropping out before the primaries officially began.
She's going to be there tonight and through the week for economic justice, justice for all families in America. And so it's just so fitting that that's the theme that we're kicking off tonight.
President Biden expected to focus on a term that began in the depths of a COVID-stricken country, touting their joint accomplishments, as former President Trump ties them together on vulnerabilities like inflation and the border. Choreographed unity inside the convention center, standing in sharp contrast to demonstrations outside. Protesters continue to demand major changes in policy on Israel's war in Gaza.
Our demands are directly connected to Palestine because the government continues to send tens of billions of dollars to Israel while there is a deterioration in living conditions for people in this country.
So after speaking tonight, President Biden and the First Lady will actually be heading to California for a vacation where, like so many other Americans, they'll catch the rest of the convention on TV. Amira?
And Christine, we know that protests are planned throughout the week. They're just outside filling the streets of Chicago. What do we know about the people coming out and what they're hoping to get out of it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, we talk about the Democratic Party. It's a big tent party with so many issues and priorities. Well, there is a group that managed to sort of become the umbrella group. We spoke to one of the organizers today for the March on the DNC. They actually represent more than 270 groups, people with top issues ranging from LGBTQ plus rights to reproductive rights, immigration. But they've all sort of rallied around this one cause, opposing U.S. support for Israel's war in Gaza.
All right, Christine Frizzell, live from the DNC convention in Chicago. Thank you. As always, we'll have more from you throughout the week. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump pushing his campaign across multiple battleground states this week. Trump back in Pennsylvania tonight before heading to Michigan tomorrow and North Carolina on Wednesday. His running mate, J.D. Vance, also in Pennsylvania today, taking aim at Kamala Harris's record as vice president, tying her to the economic woes many Americans have experienced in the past few years.
Kamala Harris is running around the country and saying that on day one, she wants to bring the cost of goods and the cost of housing under control. She says that on day one, she wants to make groceries and homes more affordable for American citizens. Well, Kamala Harris, where have you been? Because you've been vice president for about 1,300 days. Day one was 3.5 years ago. You should have been doing your job then and not promising to do it now.
And this just in, the intelligence community has confirmed that Iran did in fact hack Trump's campaign. Trump's team originally claimed Iran was responsible, prompting the FBI to confirm last week that they were looking into it. It comes after several media outlets said they received internal Trump campaign documents. And tonight, Connecticut under a state of emergency as crews begin cleaning up damage from major flooding. 2 people were killed when heavy rain drenched the state yesterday, triggering widespread rescues of more than 100 people. Some areas got up to 10 inches of rain. Long Island is also getting hit hard by thunderstorms, flash flooding, and multiple rescues happening today. More heavy rain was forecast today in New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire. And a different storm, Hurricane Ernesto, has gotten a little stronger as it continues its path northeast in the Atlantic. People going to the beach on the northeast coast should be aware of the risk of life-threatening surf and rip currents. Forecasters expect Ernesto to begin weakening very soon. Police right now searching for suspects in a shooting near a Dominican festival in Boston that injured 5 people. The police commissioner says officers heard shots near the end of the event last night. They're not sure yet how many shooters were there. And Baltimore police are interviewing witnesses after a mass shooting there that killed a 36-year-old man and injured 7 others. Police believe several people opened fire at a gathering last night.
It looks like multiple people opened fire, and we end up with 8 people shot and 1 deceased.
The victims were taken to hospitals and some are in critical condition. Police are still looking for the suspects. The long-awaited report from Republicans on their impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden was released just this morning. The National Desk's Matt Gelka breaks down what's inside.
The nearly 300-page report from House Republicans outlines their case against President Joe Biden. The report accuses Biden of abusing his power and obstructing the investigation, with Republicans deeming both of those actions impeachable offenses. The inquiry into the president had been going on for nearly a year.
And as 3 different Biden associates have testified, Joe Biden was a central figure in the Biden family influence peddling scheme. He knew full well what his family was doing.
It's centered around Biden's time as vice president and alleged influence peddling with his son Hunter and his brother James and their foreign business deals.
And there's plenty of evidence that the family members received a lot of money from foreign entities from Romania, Ukraine, Russia, and China, and that they were seeking a favorable treatment from the U.S. government.
The report states, quote, "It is inconceivable that President Biden did not understand that he was taking part in an effort to enrich his family by abusing his office of public trust." The White House has repeatedly denied wrongdoing throughout the course of the investigation.
It is baseless, it is a political stunt, and it has not proven that the president has done anything wrong. And so they are wasting their time. They are wasting the American people's time.
What the report does not have is any direct evidence or proof that then Vice President Joe Biden received any money or engaged in quid pro quo on behalf of his family. House Democrats on the Oversight Committee released a counter memo on Monday, saying in part, this mountain of evidence definitively proves that Joe Biden did not commit any wrongdoing, let alone any high crime, misdemeanor, or other impeachable offense. The politics have dramatically changed since the start of the investigation until now. President Joe Biden is outgoing and no longer seeking re-election. It remains to be seen if Republicans would seek an impeachment vote or shift their focus to the general election and Kamala Harris. For the National Desk in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Matt, thank you. Guilty of wire fraud and aggravated identity theft, former Representative George Santos accepts a diminished plea agreement in court today, avoiding trial on more than 20 other federal charges against him. The former congressman will have to repay at least $373,000. Sentencing has been postponed until February 7th. The plea deal could come with an estimated prison time of 6 to 8 years. A Washington, D.C. council member, meantime, known for spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, is awaiting trial, charged with accepting over $150,000 in bribes. An FBI agent's affidavit says Democrat Trayon White Sr. agreed in June to pressure government workers to help companies with contracts. White appeared in court today after being arrested yesterday. In 2018, White claimed that the Rothschilds, a Jewish family, were manipulating the climate. And legendary talk show host Phil Donahue has died at the age of 88. He passed away last night after a lengthy illness, according to his family today. No further details about his cause of death were released. Donahue pioneered a new format for daytime television as the host of the Phil Donahue Show from 1967 to 1996. He was back in the spotlight in May when President Joe Biden awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Coming up, the latest progress on a ceasefire deal in the Israel-Hamas war and the next steps for negotiations. Then tens of thousands of pounds of chicken are being recalled, the products that could contain a toxic substance. And later, why fixing the immigration system is becoming an increasingly urgent need in the United States. We'll be right back. Secretary of State Antony Blinken back in Israel today for the 9th time since war in Gaza began last October. He met with top Israeli leaders in Jerusalem today, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in an effort to secure support for an elusive ceasefire deal in the Middle East. Blinken says Israel has accepted a U.S.-backed bridging proposal for a ceasefire and is calling on Hamas to do the same.
Probably the best, maybe the last opportunity to get the hostages home, to get a ceasefire, and to put everyone on a better path to enduring peace and security.
Blinken is headed to Egypt tomorrow, with this round of negotiations set to continue in Cairo. This as Hamas over the weekend rejected the terms of the updated proposal, accusing Netanyahu of setting new conditions and demands and prolonging the war. Mediators are pressing for truce as hostilities on the ground continue. Tonight, Hamas and another militant group, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, claiming responsibility for what appeared to be a failed bombing attack in the Israeli city of Tel Aviv. The blast, happening over the weekend near a synagogue, came when the person suspected to be carrying the explosive device prematurely detonated the bomb, killing themselves and wounding a bystander. The attempted attack coming just hours after a horrific tragedy in Gaza. 18 people from the same family killed by an Israeli strike that hit a house and adjacent warehouse sheltering displaced people. That's according to an Associated Press reporter who was on the ground and counted the dead, the youngest of which was 2 years old. The Israeli military says it struck terrorist infrastructure, adding that the incident is now under review. And tonight, with the Democratic National Convention underway, more attention being paid to how Democrats will approach economic policy when voting on the party's official platform. Tempering inflation is of top concern this election year. National correspondent Atrel Nashar examining what the candidates are proposing to do.
The 2024 Democratic Party platform is out, and more than a third of the 90-page document focuses on the economy. Democrats putting an emphasis on corporate greed they say is stifling competition and inflating costs, saying they will keep working to boost supply, fix supply chains, and promote competition. The party also embraces a crackdown on price gouging, which mirrors Vice President Kamala Harris's announcement last week that she'd call for the first ever federal ban on food price gouging.
We all know that prices went up during the pandemic when the supply chains shut down and failed. But our supply chains have now improved, and prices are still too high.
42 states and territories already have laws against price gouging. A federal ban on food price gouging would need congressional approval, but critics say Harris's idea is counterproductive. Let's take a look at the cost of bread, which is up more than 40% since the start of the pandemic. You have to factor in the cost of ingredients, of labor, of packaging, also transporting the product. And then when it finally gets to the grocery store shelf, the store has to make a profit. So economists say if you put a price cap on the final product, there will be consequences all the way down the supply chain.
It is dangerous nonsense.
That was former Treasury Secretary under President Clinton, Larry Summers, back in 2022, when Democrats in Congress wanted to take on what they said was corporate price gouging.
There is no material prospect that in any enduring way gouging legislation can have any substantial effect on inflationary pressure.
If Harris wins, she'd likely be looking at different economic conditions than when this platform was created. The inflation rate is steadily declining toward the Federal Reserve's target rate of 2%, and an expected September interest rate cut is set to give companies and Americans more buying power. In Washington, I'm Atrel Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Developing now, 6 people, including 2 U.S. nationals, are missing after a super yacht sank in the Mediterranean Sea. Italian officials say the yacht sank during a storm off the coast of Sicily this morning. There were a total of 22 people on board, including British billionaire Mike Lynch. Lynch and the 2 Americans are among the missing right now. His wife and 14 other people have been rescued. Authorities say 1 body has been recovered so far. More than 167,000 pounds of frozen chicken are now being recalled because they could contain metal pieces. Some customers reported finding thin metal wire in some of these products. The items impacted are Purdue Simply Smart organic gluten-free breaded chicken breast nuggets, Purdue breaded chicken breast tenders, and Butcher Box organic free fully frozen cooked breast chicken nuggets. The expiration date is marked for March 23rd of 2025. You're asked to toss them out or go back to the store where you bought them from for a refund. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we begin with concern for domestic violence survivors following a cyber attack in Ohio.
Terabytes of data now exposed. Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther saying everyone in the city is now a possible victim. Cyber experts say information is out there from IDs swiped at City Hall that go back to 2006 for anyone who just paid a visit. Diana Williams is in and out of city buildings for her organization, Ohio Women Against Domestic Violence. Williams says she's now concerned for her clients after hearing Ginther say private citizens are impacted beyond just city workers.
It's alarming because it does ultimately put the victims and survivors of domestic violence at a higher level of danger. It makes the risk factor explode.
It's so beautiful up here.
Cheryl Nielsen and her neighbor, Sheila Boger, returned to their properties Wednesday, seeing in person for the first time the devastation the fire left in their isolated community 10 miles from Paynes Creek.
It's like going to a ghost town. Does that make sense? It looks like everything's frozen in time. It was a beautiful place. It was an old logger's cabin.
Nielsen lived in the home for over 2 decades with her husband until he died of COVID in March, something Nielsen was still working through when the fire forced her out.
We heard lots of commotion and noises, slamming noises, kind of sounded like somebody was in the dumpsters or something.
Bramley Bureau woke up to the sound of this car smashing through the front of One Stop Smoke in Ballard as thieves tried to hit the store yet again.
There was a car parked in the corner running. Someone was running around from the other side of the corner I couldn't see into the car, shouting, "Go, go, go." They made a quick getaway.
Bureau says at least 2 people appeared to be involved, but employees tell us the would-be thieves didn't make it inside the store or take anything, thanks to laminated glass they installed after the last break-in.
They deal with it all the time.
Coming up, the pressing problem of illegal immigration, why some experts believe the solution could be through expanding opportunities to immigrate legally. Dinner table discussions about issues at the border often focus on the impact of illegal immigration. Spotlight on America, now taking a look at legal immigration and why experts say expanding it could solve some of the biggest issues of our time.
Hands, please.
You could call it the new economic reality. Longer wait times at restaurants with subpar service. Retail workers nowhere to be found in department stores. And one of the most glaring examples, nursing homes and assisted living facilities.
Staff shortages are in a crisis in nursing homes around the country right now.
Since the COVID-19 pandemic, the result has been wings or even entire facilities shut down, which means everyday Americans waiting months or sometimes years to get a loved one admitted. With new regulations set to take effect in 2026, requiring even more staff on hand, bringing threats of more closures and even fewer beds.
I-17.
As dire as that need is, experts say there is a clear and easy solution: more legal immigration.
Over the last few years, we've seen large numbers of migrants come to the U.S. border, and the ones that I've spoken to overwhelmingly say the same thing. They just want to work. Could people like that benefit your industry?
Absolutely. So many people who are coming from other countries come from countries that revere their elders. And the opportunity to work in the United States and serve older adults would be a dream come true for them.
A dream that for many is never realized. Experts blaming a dysfunctional immigration system for what is still a major shortage of workers.
You know, we're processing people for green cards who applied before 9/11 right now. If you're looking forward at the backlog, under our current system, most of the people who applied last year will die before they receive a green card.
Limited staff and resources, combined with a surge in those applying both for green cards and asylum, said to be top reasons for the backlog. Immigrant workers have already been credited with helping the U.S. avoid a recession up to this point, aiding the Federal Reserve's goal of a soft landing.
We know they're doing a lot of the service jobs that we couldn't fill in 21 and 22. That's when we saw the wage inflation going up. They're filling a lot of the construction jobs. They're filling a lot of, manufacturing jobs. But there's no doubt that they're doing the very jobs that were in the products that we were seeing the most inflation in, that was driving the overall problem.
The dire need for more workers, one reason why some experts contend legal immigration should be the top priority for Congress.
You need about 34 million more people in the labor force than what the Social Security trustees expect we will have in the 2030s, which are right around the corner at this point.
A future that more and more say needs to be shaped now. For Spotlight on America, I'm Christine Frizzau.
When it comes to Caitlin Clark, records are just meant to be broken. In the Indiana Fever's 92-75 victory over the Seattle Storm on Sunday, Clark broke the WNBA single-season rookie record for assists. She had 9 in yesterday's game, bringing her total to 232 assists this season, breaking the previous rookie record of 224 set all the way back in 1998. Clark currently leads the league in assists at 8.3 per game, putting her on pace to beat the league record of 316. There are 12 games left in the season. Clark needs 7 assists a game to set the new mark. But again, she is on track to get that new accolade, and we're so excited for her. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. More coverage of the DNC tonight, so make sure to tune in. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching.